Okay, today we're meeting with local writer Sherry Scott. She's going to tell us about her new book that just went on sale, Abandoned. This is Sherry. How are you doing today?
I'm doing great. How are you doing?
Doing great.
Wonderful.
So can you tell us a little bit about yourself, Sherry?
Well, I grew up in northeast Mississippi. My great-grandfather was Choctaw. He and his family during the Depression times went down to the Indian reservation down in South Mississippi and stayed down there for a time. I grew up hearing stories about him and his father all my life and found it exciting and interesting as I got older.
So is that what inspired you to write Abandoned?
Yes, I had a interest in my great-grandfather. His name was Thomas Benjamin Justice. And I always wanted to know about his Indian family. We didn't know a lot about them, but we heard stories all of our life about their lives, and the fact that this Indian grandfather rescued my white grandmother when she was exiled by her family, taken off into the wilderness to survive as best she could. And that always held a, well, it seemed to me like it was unbearable almost to think that a father could do something like that.
Absolutely.
And then it was very romantic when you think that this man took care of her, and in the beginning really she thought he was an angel because she was a Christian girl, and she prayed and asked the Lord to be with her and her little son, and so it inspired me all my life. It was something I wanted to do.
This is a very old story that's been passed from generation to generation then.
Yes, this is the fourth generation.
And this is the first time that it's ever been published.
It's the first time it's ever been written, or anyone has ever really sat down and did research and tried to find out about what happened. There's still things that we don't know, but I really felt like when I was writing the story, I had this great feeling that they were with me and that they were telling me things all the time.
Yeah.
About their life and things that happened.
So can you tell us a little more about the Choctaw tribe?
Well, the Choctaw people were in Mississippi and Alabama. They had come, really no one really knew where they came from. They'd been there a long time, but they moved from somewhere in the northwest across the country, and they brought the bones of their ancestors with them. All the way across that country, they brought the bones of their ancestors with them, and they started a mound, an Indian mound, where they brought all the bones. They did not want to leave anybody behind. They brought everything. They started a mound, and they called it Ninawaya, which means mother, the mother of the Choctaw people. And so that was a place of worship that they would go to honor their people, to remember their people. And when someone died, they would go into that mound. And so that was an interesting part of their tribe. But they always were a people who honored a higher being, their own God. They did not believe in worshiping the way that the missionaries taught them. They had their own beliefs, and they struggled, especially the younger people, struggled to find what they needed for their spiritual being. But the older ones would not abandon what they knew and how they had worshipped all their lives.
That's one thing I love about this book. I mean, there's a lot of history, in the book. You learn a lot about the Choctaw people. I mean, you can tell by reading it you've done an immense amount of research, and very educational, very entertaining. What made you decide to become a writer?
Well, I've always been interested in telling stories. I've always been, my grandmother was a storyteller, and we loved it. We loved to sit and listen to her tell stories, and it just was a part of my life. And I have always enjoyed telling stories to my children and my grandchildren through the ages, and so I still enjoy that. But I did like to write as a child. I did a lot of writing. I'd write poems, I'd write little stories, and when I was in college, I had a piece that was published in the college magazine that I wrote about my dad, who was someone that I admired very much. He was my hero.
Well, thanks again for telling us about your book. I'll post some links at the end of this video so everybody can know where to buy it. Amazon.com. Also, I'll post some contact information. We're going to be doing a series of book signings in the Oklahoma City area, so keep your eyes out for that. And you can also find Sherry Scott on Facebook. Thanks again, Sherry. Really appreciate you meeting with us. I'm really excited about your book.
Thank you for having me.